Welcome to the High Tech Freedom Podcast. This is a podcast where we bring successful tech sales professionals, thought leaders, and entrepreneurs to share best practices, insights, and lessons learned with other tech sales professionals. As a sales professional, the more we learn, the more we earn. Once we earn it, how can we put those hard-earned commission dollars back to work to build additional income streams that will create the freedom we are all working to achieve? I'm your host, Chris Freeman. I'm a high-tech sales leader, real estate investor, and lifetime learner. Welcome back, high-tech freedom listeners. Thank you for all of you that have posted a review to the podcast. And I want to do a shout out and a special thanks to a user named Knuckle Scald. Love the name. And thank you for laying down the challenge of keeping the podcast going. I will absolutely do that. So let's jump into today's topic. Should I stay or should I go? By now, we have all learned or most likely experienced the great resignation. Likely, like you, I feel that the last 24 months have just been a blur. As part of that, I have seen so many of my coworkers and contacts outside of work change jobs, change roles, change companies, or just leave their W-2 altogether. And I really have mixed feelings about all of these job changes. On one hand, how can you fault someone for looking to improve their livelihood and their financial well-being? On the other hand, I really do worry for some people that are making the change based on emotion without a clear process. Let's be realistic. You probably are not going to pull emotion out of the process of a job change, but you definitely can add in some good data points before making a really big decision that can impact your financial and mental well-being for years. I changed jobs once when emotions were really impacting the process, and I paid the price. I spent time in a role with a company where the culture and the leadership had a really negative impact on my personal health. Now, I did learn and I grew professionally, especially as a leader, but in hindsight, I left the prior role for the wrong reason. Now that I'm wiser, which by the way is really just code word for older, I would approach a move in a much more methodical way. And I'd like to share a few steps that I would consider when thinking about a move in hopes that if you're thinking about a change, you might feel or you might pull a few ideas to help solidify your decision either way. Number one, the money. Because we are in sales, we're programmed to look at the money. I mean, that's a big part of why we work so hard and take on all the extra pressure of that quarterly bogey. Now, the risk for a job candidate is simply looking at that big 1 year OTE offer and package and base your decision on that. Try looking more long-term and maybe add in a few additional variables. Maybe model out your current position over 2 to 3 years and compare it to your prospective role. Now, a huge factor in all of this is quota. You probably have a good sense on how your quota is set with your current company and whether or not it's attainable and what the addressable market looks like. It is more difficult to know this at the prospective company. Are those quotas being realistically set? Are they attainable? Does the territory and account base have enough addressable market to support overachievement? One thing you can do, and I've done this before, is you can address some of those questions by talking to current employees at the prospective company and just getting a little bit more insight. Number two is, what are your 5-year objectives? Is the objective to be at a certain income level, or is it to be at a particular role? Does a move to this company get you there faster? Will you be happier on the journey? One thing I've learned is, it's not so much the final destination that ultimately is so rewarding. It's the journey along the way. And will this give you a path to get there? Now, the worst time to decide the 5-year objective is when you're looking at a new opportunity. As salespeople, we are really good at selling ourselves and creating the justification. You really should have this 5-year goal or objective clearly scripted out well in advance of your job hunt. And I have a whole nother episode on that topic. Number 3, and this is my last major point, acquisitions. How would you feel if the new company was acquired within the first couple of years? Many people out there are pursuing roles at smaller companies, a lot of startups, and an acquisition is just most likely part of their exit plan. So it's important to think about how will the role you're looking at today be different in a larger unknown organization? As salespeople, we are optimistic creatures, and we have to recognize that. If we want something, we'll create the justification and easily sell ourselves. That's what we do. One thing I like to do is just keep it really simple and go back to the old Ben Franklin method. And he would that's where he would take a sheet of paper, divide it in half, 2 columns, put a pro on one side and a con on the other side. But what's really important here is this isn't just a quick exercise over 10 minutes. He would sit on it for 3 to 4 days. And as thoughts would come into his head, he would jot them down into either column. And then after 3 to 4 days, go back and really review the pros and cons to help facilitate his decision. One really important question to ask yourself is, are you leaving for an opportunity, or are you running from challenges or issues in your current role? What we do is incredibly hard, and we always are going to be facing hurdles and low points in the job. If you're leaving because you're running from something, be careful. If you're not happy where you are at, how much of that can you address by doing something different where you're at? Maybe thinking differently or engaging people in a different way. Address the issue where you're at if you're really just leaving because you're not happy. Now, if you're not able to get your mindset right or healthy where you're at, doing what you're doing, you might be starting your new role with one hand tied behind your back. You're not going in with your A game. And I really believe that's important. I once reported to a VP, let's just call him Mike, and he had this sign in his office that I really loved. And it read, "The grass is greener because it's fertilized with bullshit." And I apologize for the profanity. Hopefully I didn't offend anybody, but I really believe there's some truth in that. Now, with that said, I'm not against making a move. My goal here is just to give you some food for thought on just doing the right analysis before making a big life-changing move. So with that, if you're going to make the move, I wish you all the best. In fact, be on the lookout for an upcoming episode where my guest is a high-end recruiter. He talks about how you should be making the interviewing process your most important sales call ever. One piece of advice in advance of that episode is take some time to follow up right away after each interview with a note and a recap of the discussion with the person that you interviewed with. As a result of the Great Resignation, I've personally interviewed a lot of people, and it's so surprising. It's more common now to not receive any follow-up correspondence from the candidate, or if I do, it's just a one-line thank you email. The follow-up is a perfect time to represent how you would communicate and follow up with an executive customer contact. You need to make it count. Well, that's it for today. Until next week, make this your best week ever. Thanks again for joining us today. To get more sales and real estate tips, you can subscribe to our newsletter at hightechfreedom.com. You can also join our private Facebook and LinkedIn group that is exclusively for sales professionals. If you found a nugget of good information in the podcast, please subscribe, give us a positive rating, and write a review. If there is a topic that you would like us to cover in the future, please send us a note through our website at hightechfreedom.com. Until next week, make this your best week ever.